On the evening following Tottenham's 2-2 draw at St James's Park, Alistair Gold has said that Football.London understand that Spurs players have not reacted well to Jose Mourinho's post-game comments today. He criticised some of the players. He mentioned some of them by name. He didn't mention others by name. I think we all knew who he was talking about. Today, I'm going to go through, first of all, the story from Alistair Gold, then look at the comments that Jose Mourinho made following that disappointing draw up north, and then take a look at the bigger situation and try and work out, is Jose Mourinho the right man for Spurs? I put out a poll on Twitter as well a while ago, which has ended in the last couple of minutes, that we're going to look at as well to see what the general feeling among the Spurs fan base is. But before we do get into that one, if you are new to the channel and you want more videos like this, plus Tottenham watch-alongs, Tottenham Fanboys podcast, previews, reviews, and all that good stuff, do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click the like button as well if you are looking forward to the stream. And we're going to start with that Alistair Gold story, because he has said that Football.London understand that a few of his comments on Sunday have angered some among the squad. Mourinho was asked about Toby Alderweireld and Serge Aurier's absence, which left him with Eric Dyer as the only defender on the bench at St James's Park for Sunday's draw against Newcastle. Of course, Matt Doherty and Ben Davies were injured, so unavailable for this one. The Tottenham boss claimed that it was all down to missed COVID tests that meant Alderweireld and Aurier had one day less to work with their teammates, although there's some confusion over whether that was actually the case with the Belgian. So this is what Mourinho had to say. I said, I don't want to say indiscipline. I don't want to say that. This is what it is. The players that landed in London on Wednesday after internationals and the ones that played in London, as in the case of the English boys, they had the tests and they could immediately be in training on Thursday. And so Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and they couldn't. They appeared only yesterday. Let's take a look at that first of all. Jose Mourinho saying Toby Alderweireld he was not available for selection because he missed his COVID test on Wednesday, didn't train on Thursday, and it was probably just best not to have him playing for the missed COVID test and stuff. Now, there's a video that I did mean to have ready, which I apologise, I've forgotten to get it up, but I'll see if I can get it here. It's a video of Tottenham training on Thursday that was posted on Twitter with Spurs, the admin welcoming Heung-min Son back to training. And in the video, you can see Toby Alderweireld. So if he trained on Thursday, why is Jose telling us he didn't? Why is he using that as the reasoning for Toby Alderweireld's absence today? It was almost immediately after those comments. I believe it was Dan Kilpatrick of the Evening Standard reported that Jose Mourinho claiming Toby Alderweireld was not selected in the Tottenham squad today because he arrived late from international duty has caused confusion at the club. Sources dispute this and insist he was at training on Thursday. Now, before the international break, we played Aston Villa at Villa Park, and news broke after the exclusion of Serge Aurier and Toby Alderweireld from that Spurs squad that they were ill and therefore unavailable to be selected for that game. However, the very next morning, both Alderweireld and Aurier went off on international duty. And in the case of Toby Alderweireld, he played every minute of every game for Belgium, over 270 minutes over that international break. Some people claiming perhaps that today Toby was rested because of the calendar he did face over the last couple of weeks. It's not the case. Jose lied about it in the pre-match press conference, in the post-match press conference, saying he missed a COVID test and subsequently missed training. It's not true. And that comes back to, look, as David Moyes here saying, Jose is zero class. I wouldn't go that far just yet. Well, you have to ask, why did Jose lie about that? What else is he being untruthful about? A lot of people talk about a manager needing to get results in the pitch, and that's the first thing and the last thing that matters. And yes, football is a results business. Results are probably the most important thing, but it's not the only thing that matters. If he is coming out in these press conferences, if it's pre-match, post-match, if he does a halftime press conference, I couldn't care what it was. If he's coming out and blatantly lying to the fans about whatever is going on, whatever it is, you're not going to expect him to be the most open and most candid person ever. You don't want him to come out and spill all the news of what is happening in the dressing room. But why is he doing this? Joe Graham says this feels like the beginning of the end for Jose. It, for me, is very similar to what has happened at his past clubs. You know, he's speaking recently about a mole in the dressing room, or the reports have broken that Jose is looking for a mole in the dressing room that is leaking news to the press about what is going on. He did the exact same thing at Chelsea. He did the exact same thing at Manchester United. And I think it was Real Madrid as well. He did something similar. And he didn't last too long after that. He is showing classic signs of Jose who is down tools and is trying to move on, trying to get himself sacked. Now, I'm not saying that is what is happening. I'm far from saying that. But it is starting to creep in. And these fans who want him gone, the fans who have, not the ones who have an agenda, fans who have an agenda, get out of here, but the fans who legitimately want Jose Mourinho to be sacked for the betterment of the club, it's hard not to see their point right now. It is really difficult to look beyond what they are saying. I do not know why Jose has come out and lied about this. Mark O'Connor, thanks for tuning in. Mark says his relationship with the players feel like it's getting worse and feels very similar. That's exactly what it is. He made some comments about Tanguy Ndombele after the game today. Now, it's not the first time he's done this. After a game against Burnley last season, Jose Mourinho named Ndombele in the press as a player that he was not happy with. And today, in these comments, it's a bit of a difficult one to judge because he was rather complimentary of Ndombele. He said players in the midfield with the vision and the passing ability that he has, he's second to none in Europe. But he then went on to say, the feeling is that Ndombele always has more to give. He never reaches the limit of effort, the sacrifice, even the ambition. He's questioning Ndombele's passion, his drive, his heart for the club, his effort on the football pitch. Do that. Call him for a meeting. Call him in Monday morning, first thing, and say that to him. Say to him in the dressing room at halftime, do not come out in the press and question a player's effort, question the player's attitude, especially a player who's turned his Spurs career around this season and has become one of the most important players on our side. It wasn't his best game today. It was far from his best game today, but he had some important moments. He got that assist for Harry Kane's second goal. Later on in the game, he had a few interesting runs that nearly led to something. But why is Jose coming out and saying this in the press? It is exactly what he said he wouldn't do anymore. It is exactly the type of thing he said he had gotten out of his game during that 11-month sabbatical after leaving Manchester United. He said that wasn't going to happen anymore. He said he was different. He'd changed. He'd grown as a person. He'd grown as a manager. Yet again, when things begin to go wrong, he's resorting and falling back into his old habits, the things that have broken dressing rooms at past clubs, the things that have lost him his job in previous occupations. Yet here he is doing the exact same thing again. He said he blames Ndombele and only Ndombele for his absence from the French first team over the recent international break. He said he doesn't blame Didier Deschamps for not choosing Ndombele. He blames Ndombele himself for not impressing enough in training and for not doing on a daily basis what he knows he can do. Again, questioning his effort, his attitude, his passion, and all that. I don't see why any manager feels it's acceptable to come out and criticize a player like that in the press as blatantly as he did. You know, he did it a couple of weeks ago around the Aston Villa game. He said, there are players that have been left out of the squad for different reasons, but some of them are there because they don't deserve to be there, and some players that were included in that team were there because he knows he can see that passion and that fight and that desire. But why, if you've taken all those players out, why all of a sudden are you now saying, oh, well, this player actually is one of those players? You said you'd remove these players from your team. You said you weren't going to select players that didn't fight for the badge, that didn't go out in the pitch and give their full effort. Yet all of a sudden, when something goes wrong, it's, oh, actually, no, he was one of those players as well. He doesn't try enough either. Roddy here says, Jose came out and said he was happy with Tanguy's performance. He never takes the blame himself. I don't know what this man does, what to believe from what he says in the press. I don't know why he says what he says. It honestly baffles me, every word that comes out of his mouth in a press conference. And after every single watch-along, I'm sitting here and we're having a discussion and I'm keeping an eye on Twitter to hear the next ridiculous thing that Jose says. Honestly, and I backed him after that game against Liverpool in December when we lost by 2-1, conceding a late goal to Bobby Firmino. He said the better team lost, and I backed him. I agreed with him. I was a bit iffy about whether or not it was true, but I thought he's our manager. You know, I'm going to back him. I'm going to trust him on this one. Yet every single game that has gone since, every single one, he's continued to say the most ridiculous things. Was it the return leg against Liverpool at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when they beat us comfortably? He said the same thing, that the better team lost. No, the better team didn't lose that game. The better team won. The better team scored 3 goals and took advantage of a team who were subpar, who didn't perform, who did not look like they cared. They were lackluster, and Liverpool won that game. Yet Jose came out and said that the better team lost that one. That I didn't agree with that at all. Some more of the comments here from Jose Mourinho after this game. On the point of winning trophies with Spurs, he said, I have dreams with Spurs, but first of all, I have a challenge to myself, which is to try and win a trophy with every club. Why, when you are employed by this club, when this club is paying you, I think he's either the second highest or the highest paid manager in world football. You're coming out after a game when you've lost 2-2 to Newcastle, or you've drawn 2-2 to Newcastle and lost your chance, rather, to get back into the top 4. And you're saying, yeah, I want to win trophies with the club, but first and foremost, I want to win a trophy for myself to keep up my own personal record of winning a trophy at every single club. Can you imagine if any other manager did that? Can you imagine if Jurgen Klopp came out tomorrow and said, yeah, I'd like to win the Premier League with Liverpool again, but I just want to get a trophy for myself? If Pep Guardiola said, yeah, I want to win the Champions League with City, but I'd rather keep my record of winning a trophy every season, or most seasons, whatever it was, that would not be accepted. It honestly would not be accepted. Jose is coming out and saying, first of all, I have a challenge to myself, which is to try to win a trophy with every club. He also said, I would love to do that. I'm winning a trophy. That is a challenge, but you need time. And for some reason, the football world thinks everyone deserves time, but I never deserve time. I have to do it immediately. There's a few people who would disagree with you on that one, Jose. You think you're the only one who doesn't deserve time. How many managers have lost their job over the last 5 and 10 years because of a small blip in form. Look at every single manager that's been at Chelsea. Every single one. Yes, you're one of them. You're two of them, in fact. But every other manager at Chelsea has had one bad blip in form. Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League with Chelsea. He won the Champions League with them and got sacked in November the next season. Frank de Boer came into Crystal Palace, and he's an example I'm going to use later on as well. He came into Crystal Palace. He tried to change everything. He tried to instill his own philosophy. He got 4 games. 4 games later, he was sacked. Look at Stephen Kenny at Ireland, the Republic of Ireland national team right now. He's had 11, 12 games, and already there are people calling for him to be sacked. You cannot sit there and claim you're the only manager who was not given time. You're the only manager who has to succeed immediately and think anybody is going to agree with that. He's a man who victimizes himself in the press, in the media, and in public to try and gain sympathy from fans who are sitting on the fence, maybe deciding, oh, am I Josie in or am I Josie out? Now, again, I still have some faith that he is the man to bring success to this club. Like I've always said, I will back whatever manager is sitting in that dugout, no matter who it is. I will back him, but I'm not going to listen to this crap in the press. It is embarrassing for our football club. Let's get that quote again. You need time, and for some reason, the football thinks everyone deserves time, but I never deserve time. I have to do it immediately. He's deciding, again, making this all about him. I'm winning a trophy with Spurs, the club that is employing him, the club that he claims to support, the club that he claims to love, the club that he claims takes up every single minute of every single day in his life to bring success to this club. He's asked about that trophy, and he makes it about himself. He makes it about himself. I deserve more time. People expect me to do things immediately. Yet straight off the top of my head, 3 examples: Di Matteo, Frank de Boer, and Stephen Kenny, who are not given the time that they perhaps deserve. Maybe they do deserve it. Maybe they don't deserve it. But why are you victimizing yourself? You're not the only person who is subject to this the reactionary nature of sport. It's simply not the case. Eddie Howe brought Bournemouth from the brink of the conference back up to the Premier League. He lost his job. Chris Wilder has done something similar with Sheffield United. This was the first season in Chris Wilder's tenure at Sheffield United where they didn't finish either in a higher position with higher points or in a higher division than the previous season. Immediately sacked. Antonio Conte at Chelsea. He won the league with 93 points. Incredible achievement. One of the highest ever points tallies in Premier League history, which, look, has been beaten twice since. He was sacked the next season. Managers don't get time in football. The fact that you are still at this club to some extent is a bit of a miracle. This club should be going forward with the amount of money they're paying you, with the amount of money that has been put into the likes of Gareth Bale's contract, bringing Reguilon in, keeping Harry Kane and Heung-min Son happy at the club. This club should be going forward. Yes, the squad is depleted. Yes, the squad is not good enough. Yes, the board is a disappointment. But that does not allow you to victimize yourself in the press. You took this job. And when you took this job, you said this: the best gift are the players who are here. I don't need new players. I just need to get to know these ones better. I told the players I came here because of them. I tried to buy some for different clubs, and some I didn't even try because you know how difficult it was. He said the best gift are the players who are here. I don't need new players. I just need to get to know these ones better. Today he said these are mistakes which I probably shouldn't call mistakes because they're related to the qualities that players have. He's saying he shouldn't be surprised by mistakes. He said he shouldn't call them mistakes anymore because they are trademarks of who the players are. That is what he's saying. And look, I know he's learned a lot about these players since he came into this club. A lot of them have been worse than they've ever been in the past. But to come out and say that about your own team, I defended him when he did it to Ndombele last year. I defended him when he did it to Dele Alli recently, because to some extent, he should be able to speak freely and speak his mind in a press conference. And in a way, it can be a test of a player's mentality. It worked for Ndombele the first time. He did it after that game against Burnley. Look what Ndombele's become this season. He's been an absolutely sensational player for us. He's been an incredible, incredible asset to this team this season. Dele Alli looked for a bit as though he may be turning it around. He didn't. I think we heard those the comments in training that Jose Mourinho made to Gareth Bale when he said, do you want to stay here and play football, or do you want to go back and warm the bench at Real Madrid? And we saw a reaction from Gareth Bale. But not every player, that's not going to work every single time. And that's where he has fallen in the past, when he's decided to approach every single issue with individual players in this way, where he's calling them out in the press and expecting them to react, expecting them to be the one who turns around in training the next day or turns around the next match and bags a hat-trick. That's not going to work with every single player, and it's not going to keep the squad happy if you do it every single time. Just to reiterate the news, Football.London understands that a few of his comments on Sunday have angered some among the squad, and that is no surprise. That is absolutely no surprise that the squad are angry. He said, he was asked some question about the squad, and he said, many of these grey hairs, they come with seeing things I am not used to seeing in football matches at this level. Again, giving out about the squad, giving out about the players, saying this. Look, a lot of what's happening shouldn't be happening. There's no doubt about that. But to say that so publicly, and like people know who he's talking about. He's talking about Davinson Sanchez. I think he's talking about Jaffa Tanganga. He's talking about Sergio Reguilon. Why are you doing that? Why are you coming out in public so consistently and saying this about all of your players? It's, again, I'm not Jose out, but at the moment I'm not exactly Jose in either. I'm struggling to decide where I sit in this. I really, really do. Rob says, Matt, I told you that the writing for all this was on the wall after his the better team lost, that it would come again, and he literally said it again the week after again. Yeah, look, I've mentioned that now. I've never admitted this before, but you might have been right, Rob. Aaron says, I also feel a bit disappointed in his treatment of Toby, one of my favourite players, and if the rumours are true, then think Jose will be gone sooner than later. Toby is a well-respected guy. Bradley says, Mourinho is not the manager to take us forward. We need fresh blood with fresh ideas. Mourinho is the new Arsene Wenger. We've Mark here as well saying he treats every player the same and ends up splitting the dressing room. He's done it at all of his recent clubs. And that is a big problem. It's a great point from Mark. He treats every player the same. And I've said this so much throughout the last year or so about the kind of decline in form from Dele Alli, that he's a player who the whole way through his career has had a father figure as his manager. You know, I forget the name of the man who kind of first brought him into FK Dons, but you're looking at the manager there in Carl Robinson, you're looking at Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham. They're a manager who, if Dele has a bad game, he'll put his arm around his shoulder and say, look, you know you're better than that, let's go out the next game and do it again. Jose isn't that man. He's that man who will drop you. And he's saying in the press, like he did after the game against Stoke, this is why I dropped him. Dele Alli won't respond well to that. Dele Alli is not the man who's going to react to that. Every player is different. Every single player is different as people, as individuals, as actual humans, and Jose needs to learn that, and not every player can be treated the same. Now look, you can argue the fact that he wants players with a certain mentality in the team, and maybe this is a way to weed out those players, but why on earth are you doing that in a time when money is scarce? We're not going to be able to buy many players in the transfer window, something you have admitted to. You know our squad is depleted, you know there aren't many options, so why, when you know these are the players that you're going to have to deal with for the foreseeable future, are you alienating a lot of them from the squad? What possibly could you benefit from that? And again, look, this is really, really turning into a massive rant, and I don't want this channel to be that, but I'm absolutely furious. Looking at some of the stats from this season, Spurs have dropped the most points in the final 10 minutes of Premier League games. We've dropped 11 points to goals conceded in the last minutes. We're talking about equalisers against Wolves, Fulham, Newcastle twice, West Ham, 3 goals in that game, and a goal that lost us the game against Liverpool. We've dropped the third most points from winning positions. We dropped 15 points from games where we were leading. Only Southampton went 19 and Brighton have 18, which has gone up to 21 actually following the game today, have more than us. We have failed to win games when we were winning at halftime more than any other team. 6 times this season we have led at the break and failed to win the game. Those stats can come down to looking at players and looking at a mentality, looking at a potential complacency, looking at individual mistakes and all that. But for me, where you can't look beyond the manager, excuse me, you can't look beyond the manager for blaming that. And I've defended Jose quite a bit. I really, really have defended Jose a lot this season. But every single fan, we were in here today and there were 15,000 people who were in that watch long at some point. I'd say between the 45th minute and the 70th minute, the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people that passed through, whatever it was, every single one of them would have told you the same thing. We can see a late Newcastle equaliser here. There was comments in there on the thing. I said it during the watch along. I said the 85th minute just as a random number. It turned out to be right. I'm not claiming that I was right about that. It was just a lucky kind of passing comment. Every single Spurs fan sensed a Newcastle goal unless we went and got that killer goal. Now look, Lamela should have done better in that break 52 seconds before Newcastle got their equaliser. He should have probably played that ball through to Son a bit earlier. Kane maybe could have done a bit better with his finish. But why does Jose continue to put pressure on this defence when he knows they can't handle it? They can't handle it when it's Dyer and Aurier in there. They can't handle it when it's Alderweireld and Sanchez. It's now 2 inexperienced players in Tanganga and Rodan. This is not a criticism of them. They're inexperienced. They do not have the know-how to deal with situations like this. But Jose continues to put this defence in the same areas, the same positions, the same situations that they have proven time and time again that they cannot deal with. He can come out and say as much as he wants. And again, I've believed him and I've backed him on this. He can say as much as he wants that he's telling this team to attack, that he's telling them to this, telling them to that, telling them to the other thing. It's one thing telling your team to attack. It's another thing setting them up in a way that they can actively and effectively bring the ball forward and create chances and create problems for the opposition. Those are two very, very important things. You can't do one or the other and expect it to work. You have to do both. There were reports in the last couple of weeks that Spurs players are relying on attacking moves they learned during Pochettino's time at the club because Jose Mourinho does not do attacking training with them. They're focusing on things that they learned 2, 3, 4 years ago, having to do them with players who weren't at the club when those attacking moves are being taught to them. Why isn't he focusing on attack? He can sit there and expect this team to attack if he is not training them, if he's not teaching them how to do it. And look, you can say they're among the best players in the world. Harry Kane, potentially the best striker in the world. Heung-min Son, potentially one of the best wingers in the world. But every single player at this level, coming up against a sturdy defence like Newcastle, you have to be on the same wavelength. You have to know when you get forward, where are we going to attack from? Who's going to make what runs? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? They can't just in the moment make that happen. You can play Sunday League, that might work for you, but that's not going to work in the Premier League. Jose Mourinho cannot just tell these players to attack. He needs to give them the basis, the tactics, and the foundations for them to go on and do that and to do it effectively. You can't say he's doing that now because the players at this level, yes, again, a lot of them are underperforming, but players at this level of this quality would not be so consistently poor on the front foot if they had a manager with the tactical nous and the experience and the ability of Jose Mourinho and not be able to do it. It's as simple as that. He needs to set his team up to attack as well as telling them to attack. And it's just not clear that he's doing that anymore. It really, really isn't. You look at Sissoko, who in his in a press conference recently, or in an interview recently said that they weren't told to attack, they were told to defend. And have we seen him since? I don't know that we have. And he came on against Aston Villa as a sub, and he looked like he couldn't care less. What's going on behind closed doors there? This really is a situation that things need to be so careful, or we need to be so careful with the way things are going from here, because this dressing room in the past has been more toxic than we've known. Look at Kieran Trippier leaving to go to Atletico Madrid. He said it was a toxic environment that he had to get out of, and we were all shocked. We couldn't believe this. This is Pochettino. This team's a family. He's a father figure to all of them. We didn't know what was going on there, and we don't know what's going on there now. Gareth Bale went away in international duty and said it's good mentally to get away from the environment at the club. What's going on now that we don't know about? What's happening now? Fenn says, does Jose actually have a strategy anymore? I don't think so. Dara says, I think wrong comment there. Dara says, I think he's lost the dressing room now. Aaron says, Maddie, what's your thoughts on the overall tactics? Why was Newcastle a bit able to split us open so often left the defence exposed, so it can't just be defensive mistakes, often left hopeless? I don't know. I commented on it today. I'm not entirely sure what Spurs were trying to do. We played that 4-4-2, but it's certainly very different to the 4-4-2 we played against Aston Villa, because everything was a lot more fluid in the sorry, I'll get back to that comment in a second. Igor says, Matt, you were a part of the problem. You were a part of the small mentality in the fan base that will settle for mediocrity. I'm as part of the small mentality in the fan base that will settle for mediocrity. Have you ever watched any of my streams? Have you ever watched any of my watch-alongs? Anything I've ever said about this club? And you have, because you're in the live chat quite a bit. You are a part of this small mentality in the fan base that will settle for mediocrity. The only thing I've been saying all season is the only thing that matters is getting top four and winning a trophy. How is that settling for mediocrity? How is calling for these players to be better, calling for the manager to be better, calling for every single one in this club to be the best that they can be, to bring success to this club, and you're saying, I will settle for mediocrity? Get out of this live stream, honestly. But that comment a second ago, I don't know, like that 4-4-2 against Villa, we were so much more fluid. There were players like interchanging in positions. You had, Ndombele could pop up on the right at some stage. You could pop up in the centre. You had Vinicius maybe pulling wide and stuff, Kane dropping deep. Today seemed to be a really, really rigid and structured 4-4-2, which is not going to work when Newcastle are parked in their 5-3-2, 5-4-1, whatever it was in defence. Coming up with the exact same thing every single time, going with the exact same tack, the exact same players doing the same thing. Excuse me, that's not going to break him down. There was no fluidity in our play today, and that for me is where the biggest problem came from. In terms of the defence being exposed, I honestly don't know, because I was absolutely furious watching that game. It's hard to kind of, when you're as angry as we were watching that game, I suppose, and trying to have a chat about it, it's hard to really, really look at those tactics. So in terms of defensively, I couldn't tell you what was going on. All I can say is Tanganga, Sanchez, and Reguilon were not good enough. We're not good enough at all. But I really do think that it does need to be analysed. And if we go into this Manchester United game next week and play in any way similar, we could be beaten comfortably. Look, it won't be another 6-1, but United could come out of there with a very, very similar kind of feeling as to what we had earlier in the season. Just a few comments here I want to thank you for. Dan says, I think that's very disrespectful to say about Matt. You do a grand job. Thank you very much for that. That's Tottenham says, mediocrity is not what the club is. Matt is not settling for mediocrity. He wants the complete opposite of it. David Moyes here as well says, I've been following Matt throughout the lockdown. He's been on point with his reporting and analysis. Thank you very much to the 3V for those kind comments. Darkson G here with the 5,000 South Korean one. Thank you again for Darkson G for the super chat. You did a lot of them earlier on, so I really, really do appreciate that. So I think the problem today was that the players were trying to play solo rather than playing with teamwork. That is the difference from Villa than today. Yeah, look, there was a lot of things that were different. There was a lot of things that didn't go to plan and weren't going in the same ways they were in that Villa game, I suppose. But there were players who underperformed today, who were better against Aston Villa. I suppose that is a fair thing to say. And this is a point that I wanted to touch on. I said I was going to bring up Frank de Boer again. And this is why. Rob says, Jose isn't suited to Spurs and Spurs aren't suited to Jose. You have an attacking team and a defensive manager. Need them to be the same to be successful. Attacking man with attacking players, then build. I want to talk about something that, again, it doesn't mean I'm Jose out, but it's putting me closer to falling on that side of the fence. Because look, like I said, at the moment, I'm not Jose in and I'm not Jose out. I'm trying to figure out how I feel, to be honest, because it's a really confusing time as a fan, because we can go out and do what we did against Villa, then come into today after seeing West Brom beating Chelsea yesterday, thinking, yeah, we win, we're back in the top 4. Then all of a sudden we drop these points. It's a very different feeling. Does Jose Mourinho suit Tottenham? You can say all you want, and I have all you want about his success in the past. He's won more trophies in his managerial career than Tottenham have won in their history. But that doesn't mean that he is the man for Spurs. That doesn't mean he's the man to bring success to Tottenham Hotspur. I'm going to use 2 examples that are absolutely extreme versions of what I'm talking about now, just to try and explain it a bit better, because I can say it about Jose, but I think it's easier to describe by using a more extreme version of that. And the more extreme version I'm going to use is, imagine if Pep Guardiola went to Burnley. Now, that may sound like the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. Imagine if Pep Guardiola went to Burnley. Guardiola is one of the most successful, one of the most iconic, and one of the most influential managers in world football. He did it at Barcelona, he went to Bayern Munich and he did it, and now he's doing it at Manchester City. Incredible manager. He's a tactical genius. That he has outplayed some of the best teams, some of the best managers in the world. Yes, he's guilty of overthinking things at times, but he's one of the best there's ever been. If he went to Burnley, do you think he'd succeed? Do you think he'd do anything? Do you think he'd keep him in the Premier League even? Because what Guardiola, the one common denominator in everywhere he's been, it has been money, and he's been allowed to build the team and build a squad that he wants. He would not get that at Burnley. So as good as he may be at the clubs he's been at, just because he's successful at one club in a very, very particular situation does not mean and does not have any bearing on whether or not he'd be successful at a very different club in a very different situation. The kind of flip side of that, the opposite end of the spectrum, the other extreme, is if Big Sam went to Manchester City. Sam Allardyce has been a manager who, yes, has had bad moments in his past. He's struggling at the moment at West Brom. They're not looking likely to stay up. But every other team he's been to, where he's been brought in at this stage of the season to try and keep him in the league, he's done the job. He's kept them up. He's built a very, very structured defensive side that has managed to scrape points here and there and keep him in the Premier League. He's been very good at that. But if you put him at Manchester City and you give him £500 million to build a team, do you think he's going to win the Champions League with them? Do you think he's even going to win the Premier League with them? It's highly unlikely that he would. Managers suit situations a lot of the time. A lot of the time, that is the way things are. Jose may not suit the situation. He may be the best manager right now for some team out there. He could be the best manager to take over at Manchester United if Solskjaer loses his job. No, that's not the case, but I'm using it as an example. There could be a team in Europe that could sack their manager, get Jose in, and he could be the best manager for them. That doesn't mean he's the best manager for another team. The situation right now, I'm not sure it suits Jose Mourinho. So that's what we need to ask ourselves. We don't need to talk about his past, what he can do if he gets money. We need to talk about what he will do with what he does or doesn't have. He's not going to get money. He said it himself. It's going to be a very strange window. And look, he's definitely right about that one. I said I put out a poll on my Twitter asking my followers if they were Jose in or Jose out at this stage. We had 195 votes. 38.5% said Jose in, 61.5% said Jose out. And that, again, could be a very reactionary thing to what happened today. But it may also be a very accurate representation of how the fan base feels. And I will put up a poll again later in the week to to kind of look back on this one, I suppose. But look, that's me. That's how I feel. Again, this turned into a bit of a rant, and it wasn't as structured as I hoped it would be. But we're in a very, very dangerous situation. We're in a point in this club's history where I really think it could go that way or the complete opposite way. Martin here says, here's a stat. The last time Mourinho left a job on his own accord was in 2010 with Inter. He's got sacked 3 times since then. The game moved on and Jose refused to adapt, which is a scary thought, Martin, but I'm sure there's quite a bit of truth to that as well, that the game may have just moved beyond Jose Mourinho. But look, we're going to talk about this again a little bit later in the week, kind of have a more reasoned, a more logical approach to this entire situation. But there's still 130 people watching, so please, if you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button. Make sure to click a like on the stream as well if you have enjoyed it. If you want access to member call-in shows and exclusive content as well, do hit that join button down below as well. We're going to have a scheduled members-only stream soon. I know I was supposed to do one last week, but there will be a scheduled one coming up very, very soon. So please hit that join button if you are interested in that. Thank you to Dark Sun G for the super chat a while ago. It is massively appreciated. And look, hopefully we'll be back later in the week with more of a positive outlook on this entire situation. But it's not too positive right now. As always, thanks for watching.